Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to zoning amendments. I have Z 13-2020. I'll ask Cassia to take over.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be sharing my screen now. Okay. All right, can everyone see my presentation?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so zoning amendment Z 13-2020. The owner of the subject lands is Robert Gillespie. The location is at 20545 McCormick Road in Alexandria. The lands are designated and zoned agriculture.
I have it here.
So the zoning amendment, the purpose is to rezone a portion of the subject lands from general agriculture to a special exception, AG 191, to permit one Mongolian yurt, a tent, on the property for personal use only. And in front of you is the portion of the property that is proposed to be rezoned. So it's not the entire agricultural lot, it's just a small portion around the home and the barn. So the subject lands, the entire lot has an area about 19.5 acres, and the lands are surrounded by agricultural uses. Other uses include the golf course, which is 250 meters to the west, and the Alexandria Sanitary Lagoon, which is about 450 meters to the southeast. The access to the property is via a shared laneway with the adjacent property to the south at 20543 McCormick Road. You will see that how it looks on the following image and slide. The proposed use will not be impacting the neighboring properties since it's for personal use only. There will not be renters arriving at the property. It's solely for a family member of the home. And there will also be no public visibility of the yurt because the property is surrounded by trees, and it's about 120 meters from the road. And it's located north of the, proposed to be located north of the existing dwelling, as you will see. So this is the proposed location of the yurt. So here on the bottom right corner, you have the home, and it's about 16.5 meters from the home and about 10 meters from the existing barn. So respecting the setbacks within the zoning bylaw very well. And the yurt would have a diameter of approximately 30 feet. And as I discussed, there's a shared laneway with the adjacent neighbors. So you can see it here. And the home, you can just see it behind those two trees, which don't have leaves. I did a site visit last week, so you can see the home, and the yurt will be to the north of that home. So it would not be visible at all from the street. And then analysis of the policy. So the provincial policy statement, the prime agricultural areas do permit some on-farm diversified uses, and this being a temporary use, a tent, it will not hinder the existing surrounding agricultural uses in any way. There will be no noise, odor, or any other impacts that are anticipated. And the SDG County's official plan. So the agricultural, sorry. What's this? All right, sorry. The agricultural resource lands also permit on-farm diversified uses and are compatible with the surrounding areas. Therefore, the proposed use is conforming with the SDG County's official plan. And then the next slide. So the Ontario Building Code. So there's some considerations since it is a temporary structure. The tent can be effectively removed and displaced within 2 hours. That's why it can be considered a temporary structure. So there's some requirements imposed for their use to be compliant as a temporary structure under the Ontario Building Code. So only one yurt is permitted on the subject lands. The proposed yurt is to have a maximum size of 40 square meters. And the yurt that is proposed is much smaller. It only has a diameter of 30 feet. The proposed yurt is a minimum 3 meters from another building and a minimum 1.5 meters from the rear and side lot lines. So as I explained, their setback is well enough, 10 and 15 meters from the existing buildings. The yurt will not be attached to another building. There will be no plumbing fixtures or cooking facilities within the yurt. Wet certification is required for a burning appliance for heating within the tent. And the bathroom access will be provided through the main building on the lands. And finally, the tent shall be located to the rear of a point midway between the front and rear walls of the main building. And the recommendation is to approve this zoning amendment as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasia. So Kasia, is there anyone that's on right now that is here to speak in regards to this?
No, not for this file, and I didn't receive any public comments for this file.
Okay, thank you. Are there, we'll be asking for questions again in the regular meeting of planning, but are there any questions at this point from any members of council? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We will move on to Z 14-2020. Kasia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going back to the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, here we go. Zoning amendment Z 14-2020. So the owner of the subject lands is Glengarry Memorial Hospital. The lands are located at 20260 County Road 43 in Alexandria. The official plan designation is rural district. And the zoning, there's several zonings on the property, which are as follows: restricted agricultural, institutional, rural, industrial, floodplain, and wetlands. So the purpose of this zoning amendment is to rezone the severed lands, 36 acres. There will be an image that follows, to permit a proposed long-term care facility and administrative offices. So again, to rezone from restricted agriculture AR, rural industrial, institutional to institutional holding. And then the second portion is to create an open space special exception zone OS1 for the lands adjacent to the PSW provincially significant wetlands, and then an unevaluated wetlands as well as mill pond to prohibit site alteration and development within 30 meters of those features. This is to be consistent with the notice of decision for consent application B8920. So this is the image to describe the rezoning I just read to you. So there is a couple items, several zones within here. There's an institutional zone, agricultural, and MR, which will become institutional with a holding. The holding is to address the servicing situation at a later stage, being site plan, and which will be also requiring zoning amendment to remove that holding. And then a requirement which was imposed by the RRCA, Raisin Region Conservation Authority. So the expansion of the existing wetland buffers by about 30 meters, as you can see here. So the applicant was required to provide an environmental impact study, and they did, and the biologist recommended expanding the buffer, as you can see in front of you. So a bit of a discussion. So the subject lands, which is the severed portion of the Severance B89 hospital lands, have approximately 36 acres in area, and they are along County Road 43. There is no existing access to County Road 43 along the severed lands for the proposed development. So right now in the preliminary site plan, access will be provided through the existing Glengarry Memorial Hospital Road entrance and a new connecting right-of-way. Please note that this is a preliminary site plan, so things might change during the actual site plan control stage. So the proposed amendment aims to facilitate the development of a long-term care facility and administrative offices to complement the existing Glengarry Memorial Hospital. And you will see the details on the following slide. So unfortunately, I couldn't make it vertical. You would have to look kind of 90 degrees. County Road 43 is on the right side here, and the severed lands are on the top portion. So there's 3 buildings that are being proposed: a 2-story building with approximately 30 units, another 2-story building with approximately 56 units, and then a third building, 3-story building with approximately 96 beds, each floor containing 7 double occupancy rooms and 18 single rooms. Again, those numbers are preliminary. It might change. It will most likely change at least a little, but this is definitely the area where the development will happen given to the wetland setbacks, which is limiting and restricting the development. But maybe the number of units might change a little as the project develops. So this amendment to the township zoning bylaw is the second step in getting the necessary approvals for this development. A consent to sever application was filed for this property to sever the Glengarry Memorial Hospital from the subject lands. And analysis of the applicable policies. So the provincial PPS 2020, policy 1152 permits uses and activities in rural lands, including residential development and lot creation, as well as recreational, tourism, and other economic opportunities. Therefore, the proposed long-term care facility and offices are consistent with the PPS 2020, and it is a complementary development to the existing hospital lands. And the SDG County's official plan 2018. So the rural district designation does permit residential, commercial, and agricultural uses. Furthermore, institutional uses are permitted in all designations within the official plan. Therefore, the proposed uses and development conform with the county's official plan. Servicing. So this is the first point within the zoning bylaw amendment. So the proposed development will be connected to municipal water servicing and private sanitary servicing. However, when available, the development will be connected to an upgraded municipal sanitary system. And the notice of decision B8920 contains additional provision for addressing the sanitary servicing solutions. So this is condition number 5. It requires that the applicant obtains a zoning bylaw amendment, which places a holding symbol on the severed lands, stipulating that the symbol can only be removed upon either. So this is 3 possible case scenarios for removing that holding, which is being placed tonight for approval by the planning committee. So in order to remove that holding later on in the development process, one of the following needs to happen. So either A, the allocation of sufficient reserve capacity in the township's sanitary sewage system to service the development, or B, the execution of a responsibility agreement between the landowner and the township for a private communal septic system, or C, the approval by the township of an alternative surfacing arrangement acceptable to the township. So this condition and these 3 points were written by the SDG counties. And finally, the planning department recommends the approval of this application as submitted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kasia. Is there anyone that has spoken in favor of or against this proposal?
I received one inquiry, just some questions, but it was generally supportive.
Okay, and is there anyone on this call that is going to speak to this?
Mr. Hines, he's on the call. I'm not sure if he wanted to speak or not.
Okay, Mr. Casworm, did you want to speak to this? Okay, not looking like.
And we also have the consultants, Nadia, Will, and Jocelyn. They will present.
Okay. Oh, there's Hines, you're muted right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just speaking in this regard because my family owns property just west of that proposed project. And we just want to make sure that if there's such large developments taking place, particularly as well, not just this one only, but as well north of the Highway 43, that this will not show any restrictions to be able to perform agricultural use of the land that we operate as a family operation. So it means like if, you know, the farm needs to spray manure and things like that, or do some other agricultural work, And these projects are so close to our fields that this will not suddenly turn into an argument as to saying, you know, like you can't spray any manure anymore, things like that, because we have seen that in other situations already where this has taken place. So we want to make sure that this is going to be expressed at this point in time.
Kasia, do you want to answer that, or I can take a stab at it?
Yes, so this will not be a problem. There's definitely enough distance setback being the wetlands and then expansion of the buffer. So this is not a concern.
And anything that doesn't interfere with anything that's normal farm practices is acceptable on agricultural land. And we are a farming community. So it's, I think, expected that at certain times of the year, it's going to have a nice odor throughout North Glengarry. So I think we're confident that nothing is going to change, Mr. Castleworm. Councillor Massey, you had your hand up?
No, I think I just wanted to maybe voice. I think I can hear Mr. Casburn voice concern that when there's there is a smell and they're on the west side, so the west wind usually prevails, and so it's just that I can hear his concern there, and I never thought of it, but yeah, it could be a concern there. But if it's done according to the rules of Ontario agriculture, I think everything will be fine. But I can see what it could create a problem. Good.
It might be, and it could be not necessarily the landowner itself, but some of the residents could be, you know, down the road, express some displeasure. This is just something that we've seen not just here in North America and Canada, but in Europe in particular, where then suddenly they, you know, really force farm communities to restrict their farming practices. So we don't want to go in that direction really. So we want to have that on record that we have as a farming community and as a farming family, we have the township support.
Again, if it falls within the normal farming practices, there'll be no issues. And
Okay.
again, it's agricultural land, so it's understood that that's going to happen there. So
Okay, thank you.
I'm confident. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? We're going to move to the regular planning meeting, and perhaps if we have any questions, Jocelyn or Nadia or Will can answer those questions in the regular meeting, if everyone's okay with that.
No problem.
Okay, great. So we'll adjourn the public meeting and then go into the regular planning meeting. I have a motion moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Manley. There being no further business to discuss, the public meeting was adjourned at 6:50 p.m. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay. Moving on to the planning committee meeting. Are there any disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Motion to accept the agenda. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Williams, seconded by Councillor Madden, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the planning committee meeting agenda of Monday, December 14th, 2020. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to ratify the minutes for the planning committee minutes of November 9th, 2020. I have a motion moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Manley, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the minutes of the planning committee meeting of Monday, November 9th, 2020. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to zoning amendment Z13 2020. I have a motion moved by Councillor Noble, seconded by Councillor Madden. It is the recommendation of the Planning Department that the application Z13 2020 be forwarded to the Council of the Township of North Glengarry for further consideration and approval. Kasia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I presented in the previous meeting. Is there any comments from the planning committee?
Councillor Noble.
I just had a question, Kasia. Since Groovy Yurts is the new cool thing, I'm just wondering if everybody that wants to put up one, do they all have to get a zoning amendment? Or is it going to be like a tent where you can just put it up and take it down in your backyard, since they are not meant to be permanent structures?
I would say in the zones that a tent is permitted, it would be permitted, but it would still need to respect those setbacks. So maybe a residential zone that is a large lot with enough setbacks, it will be permitted as of right. But otherwise, it would need to be a zoning amendment everywhere else.
Okay, so just to be safe, they should contact you and you'll tell them
Yes.
whether
yes,
it's just go
that's
ahead or,
preferable, for sure.
perfect.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to Z14 2020. I have a motion moved by Councillor Manley, seconded by Councillor Wensink. It is the recommendation of the Planning Department that application Z14 2020 be forwarded to the Council of the Township of North Glengarry for further consideration and approval. Kasia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I presented the presentation. Is there any comments or presentation from the consultants?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Nadia DeSanti. I'm a land use planner with WSP, and my colleague Jocelyn Cadzio is a planner as well. And we're here with our client Will Ball, who's the Chief Operating Officer at IHA Canada. We have a short presentation, and I might, if I may, just highlight a couple of things, if that's acceptable, or we can.
Nope,
If
that's
that's
great.
okay.
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to move ahead to a couple of slides. Kasia did a great job in providing the overview. So Jocelyn is going to just forward the slides for me. I just want to actually just move to the subject site. So just so everyone is clear, these are the lands for which we received a consent, which was mainly for financial and mortgaging purposes. So that appeal period has ended, I believe. And if we can just move to the next, these are just preliminary massing diagrams of the facility. They're going to get refined through the site plan process. One of the things I wanted to identify is that there is a contemplated pedestrian walkway connection that would be from the hospital to the new building, and that's to allow for staff to move between the two buildings, and it'll be covered, so it'll be accessible through the winter months. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. And I would like to actually move to slide 8, because I think the zoning bylaw schedule, so that's the existing zoning, but I just want to highlight this. It is a bit of a complex zoning bylaw amendment schedule. So if I'm, Jocelyn, I think if you can just point to the areas as I go through. So this is the severed lots. These are the lands west of the hospital. We used color to show the existing zoning, and then we used a hatch with areas and numeric, or not numerics, but alphabetical letters to identify the rezoning. So what are we going from and to? So area A in the northwest corner is to be rezoned from industrial rural to institutional with the holding provision. Area B is to be rezoned from restricted agricultural to institutional with the holding provision. Area C is to be rezoned from restricted agricultural to institutional with the holding provision. Area D is to be rezoned from institutional to institutional with holding, and Area E is to be rezoned from floodplain, restricted agricultural, and institutional to open space with a special exception. And the special exception wording is to protect the natural features, so there would be no development in that area. So that's a special exception which will be text added to the rezoning. So I just wanted to present this more detailed zoning bylaw amendment schedule, and I think we can flip to the next slide. Happy to answer any questions or comments that you may have. Thank you.
Excuse me, Nadia, can I ask something before we move on?
Yes.
Area C, south
Yeah,
of
we
the
can go
lake.
back.
What's the point of calling Area C or having Area C rezoned to institutional? That's in a residential area on the south side of the lake?
Area C is restricted agricultural. So I think it was just to, we don't anticipate any development there, but I think it was just to clean, instead of having multiple zones on the property, just to really have institutional holding and then these open space with the special exceptions. So again, it was just kind of to keep with consistent zoning and to clean up the site. But that's basically it.
Okay, so there are no plans for south of the lake, as I understand it. I'm just
No.
confirm that.
Yeah, there's no plans. There's just to, whenever we, as planners, we like to have zoning that's clean. And so we thought we'd include this area just so that it's all,
They have a
just
question.
to simplify it, really.
Okay, Kasia, if that ends up zoned as institutional, does that give us any benefits or any consequences in the future for other land use on that part of the municipality south of the lake there, where there's a lot of houses?
I would need to confirm the adjacent uses, how it looks. From this parcel itself, I see it's a very small area, and then that additional 30-meter buffer, it might not be a viable area in terms of any development. So as Nadia said, it's probably most likely just to clean up the zoning bylaw, make it consistent.
Okay.
May I have a question?
So, who's that? Okay,
That was Heinz.
I think he's gone.
Well, somebody.
No.
Host. Hello?
Yeah, okay, go ahead, ask your question, Heinz.
Okay, I have the same question about C, because C is basically landlocked, which is only accessible through the trail system, the green road, and the boardwalk off of Lockheil Street. So if the argument is that you want to clean up your site, why wouldn't you keep it as a part of the E, which is rezoned from floodplain to
To open space with
open
special
space,
exception.
correct, So this argument, if you really use this argument, it doesn't make any sense, the argument actually.
Okay, so we'll get, if you guys can come back to us with something on that. Will, do you have something? I just saw you come on.
No, I just to reiterate from my perspective, obviously we have no interest in that parcel down there. So, whichever direction the group decides they want to go, it's fine with me.
Okay, so council, we can decide that tonight, obviously, Kasia?
Yes, so I would prefer to keep it open space, special exception, because it is landlocked and it's so small and it would make a lot more sense.
Mr. Mayor, I would accept that, and I think our client has indicated so. So I think, sorry, I'm just having a problem with my headset. There would be no issue with rezoning that to open space with a special exception. So area C would be area E essentially in that location. That's fine.
Okay, rest of council's okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, are there any further questions from members of council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
this is just a comment in general and not directed towards the IHA individuals in particular, but it's more of a process question or comment for council. Because we are the decision makers in this process, and this project is very large and complex and complicated. I think, and I'm just speaking for myself at the moment, but the rest of council can either agree with me or disagree with me, but I find that the different stages of this project, which, like I just said, are complex. It would be nice to know what we're going to be faced with decision-wise in advance of receiving the council package. Like I'd like to know how the process of approvals exactly is, the timelines that are associated with it, and when it comes up to when it comes to a rezoning, perhaps some more details with regards to what exactly this rezoning is pertaining to, so that we can perhaps be better informed in advance. And this isn't a comment to you, Kasia. It's just a comment on process in particular, so that we can go into this as council members as well informed as possible, and know what because the last thing I would want to see is us, gaining approvals, because I know this is a step-by-step process, and then at some point in time finding ourselves with our back against the wall because we've approved something and then we didn't know the potential consequences of that. And the reason I bring it up is because I'm looking at this map that's in front of us, and I'm thinking about Mill Pond, like the drinking water source for all of North Glengarry. And I have some questions about that in terms of, ensuring that water source, maintains protected. I know the RCA is involved in this process, but, as a council member, I'd like some assurances that there's not going to be any adverse effects on that water source, and just questions like that. I don't know when the appropriate time is to ask those questions. That's part of the issue. Anyway, I would just like a few more advanced details on this project as it comes. And don't get me wrong, I'm full support of this. It's a very exciting project, but just if you understand what I'm saying.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? Can we unshare the screen? I can't see everyone, please.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nadia.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Okay, there being no further business to discuss, the planning committee meeting was adjourned at 7:06 p.m. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And we will move right into our council meeting. Sorry, I have to get all my secretarial work done here. All right. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our regular meeting of council for Monday, December 14th. Welcome to all members of council, staff, and anyone that's watching on Facebook. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, accept the agenda. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Williams, seconded by Councillor Massey, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the agenda of the regular meeting of council on Monday, December 14th, 2020. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Adoption of previous minutes. I have a motion moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Noble, that the minutes of the following meeting be adopted as circulated. Regular meeting of council, November 23rd, 2020. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have no delegations. Moving on to staff reports, administrative department. I have a motion moved by Councillor Noble, seconded by Councillor Manley, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive staff report 2020-20, and that the council adopt bylaw number 49-2020, being a bylaw to adopt a respectful conduct policy, and that bylaw 49-2020 be read a first, second, and third time, and enacted in open council this 14th day of December 2020. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was the policy that I brought to the Committee of the Whole in November. It is a result of some less than favorable customer service we've had here at the front counter. So it is basically in conjunction with our current workplace violence and harassment policy. It speaks to interactions between employees, whereas this specifically it speaks to interactions between staff and the customers that we may serve. It's not to say that it gives sort of a carte blanche for all staff to not be able to deal with people. It's just to deal with unreasonable behavior. And as council can see, the policy does describe what that unreasonable behavior may be. So it's vexatious, frivolous requests, when customers or residents come in and use not so great language, things like that. And it gives staff an idea of what they can do. So their first thing is to report it to their supervisor and document, and then we go from there. It also gives myself and the department head some context into what we can do. So whether it be to send them a letter to let them know that their behavior is unreasonable, and then we can go from there how we want to escalate it up. So I'm hoping council will adopt this pilot policy tonight.
Thank you, Sarah. And yes, I agree that we've had some issues lately, and we continue to have some issues. So I'm glad that we have a document that we can follow and move forward with people that are not respectful to the staff. So are there any questions from members of council? Councillor Wensink.
Just a comment, I thought it was very well written and it's an excellent guideline to follow. So I think you've done some excellent work on it.
Thank you.
Councillor Madden.
Also, just a comment, I haven't spent as much time in the office this year, but I will say very nice to see this because I've seen some people in the front office and yeah, it's needed and good call. Well done.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Insurance RFP, I have a motion moved by Councillor Manley, seconded by Councillor Madden, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry award the request for proposal for insurance services to Frank Cowan Company for the 2021 insurance year. Sarah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've not gone to tender or to RFP for our insurance services for quite a long time. So I did speak to our broker, Carolyn Corkery of Hal Penny Insurance, and we did put in an RFP. We only received 2 bidders, Marsh Canada JLT, which is our current provider, and also Frank Cowan Company. We provided for council's information the criteria as well as the scoring for each of the proposals. And as you can see, Cowan did score quite a bit higher. I did also include what we received from our broker, which was quite a detailed coverage overview, and it compares the 2 documents. If you put the full proposals all together, it's about 900 pages. So I figured council didn't really need to see that level of detail. And certainly I did receive a couple of clarifying questions about some of the things in here, but this was really the highlights of the 2 proposals. I can say that Frank Cowan does provide a very good risk management portfolio, which a JLT does not. What you can do is if you have an incident in the municipality, like a new policy, some new policy or service you want to provide, Frank Cowan does provide a great opportunity to have them review what you want to do, whether it be waivers, contracts, things like that. So that's a very big added bonus. And certainly Hal Penny Insurance has used both of these companies, and they do come highly recommended for either, but certainly based on the criteria, we're suggesting that we move to Frank Cowan for our insurance services for 2021.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And just everyone can feel comfortable. I did read all 911 pages and it was quite interesting. I'm kidding. Councillor Massey.
Yeah, I'm just reading in the first, when presenting the, you said that the firefighters were not included in this policy. And the quotes for this coverage would be sought after of this RFP. So, but we see a difference in financial price, like between the two. Isn't that the reason, or are we covered now in the old policy, or?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so we pulled out the price of that fire VFIS insurance out of the cost of the comparison. So because Frank Cowan doesn't provide it, the quote that JLT gave us was not including the fire. So we're going to look at that for a separate company, but we do not anticipate that to be any more money than it currently is. And we just want to make sure, and that's what I wanted to make sure, that if someone was reading this, for instance, our fire chief, and said, you know, I don't see anything in here about the VFIS, I wanted to make sure for him as well as council to know we are not dropping that service. We just will be getting that from a different company.
Okay.
Any questions? Further questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see under coverage for crime, we're covered actually under both plans for employee dishonesty for $1 million, and I do believe we didn't manage to get covered to actually get paid out for that. Is that are we paying for something that we're not going to be able to collect on?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the money that we didn't get recovered for was the penalty and interest portion. So it wasn't to do with the fact that we didn't hit the maximum or that it wasn't there, just that the amount that was being claimed, we claimed the full amount of the $1 million, which is what has been estimated by the forensic auditor and as well as looked at by SAF. But of that, the actual loss to the township is not the full amount of the $1 million, because the penalty and interest would have just been overstated for the number of years due to the fraud. So I wouldn't say that there's an issue with the $1 million or how it was applied for. It's a known thing that they don't pay penalty and interest in the crime coverage, if that makes any sense, Carmen. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Manley.
Just wondering, so have we been paid out, Sarah, by that insurance company for our losses?
So through you, Mr. No, we have not, but because we did the legal document that basically stops time, that will remain with JLT, and that was one of the first things I checked with Carolyn Corkery, was that because that's not the only outstanding lawsuit we have with them, unfortunately. They'll all be still with JLT because they are a legal document. They will not be, null and void.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So certainly that will be taken care of soon.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Sorry, Sarah, I did have a question. So it's for the 2021 insurance year. We have an option to renew for the next year?
Yes, we'll have an option next year. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, moving on to ISIP COVID-19 stream local government intake. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Williams, seconded by Councillor Massey. The Council of the Township of North Glengarry authorized the Chief Administrative Officer to apply for the ISIP local government intake COVID stream for a joint project with Hôpital Glengarry Memorial Hospital.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we received a $100,000 allotment through the ISIP, the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, for the COVID-19 local government intake. And this was just in November of 2020. You can see in my report, there was specific eligible projects. We did send out those in conjunction with the treasurer to the senior management team. there were no projects that we had that were ready to go because the timeline is very short. It has to be applied for by December 21st and has to be finished and by the end of 2021. So we sent it out a couple of times, had some discussions at the senior management team level. And I also attended a couple of webinars on the amount of money, because when you read the grant application, it's quite confusing because it speaks up to a $10 million allotment, but because we've been given 100,000, that's our allotment, full stop. So I was also approached a couple of weeks ago by the hospital to do a joint project, and council can see here what exactly that project is. So it's for some upgrades to some of the HVAC at the hospital. And I had a conference call with Louise Kenville, Michael Cowan, and also a representative from Siemens. And it's quite a good project. It's to do with the COVID, to do with the air quality, as well as some upgrades they need to do with piecing together the hospital building. They've had some problems with their HVAC. So because we're not applying, it's a great project it hits all of the categories. So what I'm recommending to council is that we apply in a joint project with the hospital for the 100,000. They're ready to go. So it's a quick timeline. It's about 7 days. They're ready to go. I've already sent them the grant application. If council's in support of it this evening, we're ready to go to hit the ground running. So staff is recommending that we do the joint project for this funding with the hospital.
Okay, thank you. I think it's an important project, and it's a great project that we get to partner with the hospital, which is so important in our community. Are there any questions from members of council or comments? Councillor Noble.
Yeah, just a quick question, Sarah. I can see, whoops, clicked on the wrong thing. I can see one of the eligible projects would be tree planting. Obviously, we're not going to do $100,000 with a tree. Well, we could out here, but is it possible to do a joint project in the true sense of joint? Like, can we keep back the amount that we were going to put towards tree planting?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, because we only received 100,000, we can only apply for one project. If we had received like $100,002, we can apply for two projects. So it's quite a different way to do the grant application, but unfortunately not for this. But we've heard through meetings with Infrastructure Ontario that there's going to be other ways of funding to come out. And perhaps through, RRCA or South Nation, we could do a partnership with them with trees, and but not, unfortunately, not with this.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Madden. You're muted, Councillor.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question about the administration of this, which my understanding is that's all the municipality is going to do. So basically, we're just brokering money for them. Is that really all this is? So we're applying in our name so that they can get this done, and we dish it to them, and we presumably submit any required documents. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So this is similar to what we did with the Ontario Trillium Fund for the archives building. So we applied on behalf within a joint partnership with them. It's a similar thing. We're like a paymaster. Certainly, similar to the OTF grant, I'm not the expert in the project. So like I said, I've already sent all the information out to Louise and Michael, and they'll work on, putting in the information. Any information I need for reporting also will come through them. It's minimal staff time. It'll be more than likely myself or the treasurer just to submit the, the project proposal. Usually I have to do a couple of reports during the year, quarterly reports, and then one final year-end report. But
Perfect.
certainly
Thank
on
you.
their end, they'll need to give me all the information for that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? There are none opposed. Motion is carried. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Moving on to the Treasury Department, Safe Restart Reserve. I have a motion moved by Councillor Madden, seconded by Councillor Wensink, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts report TR 2020-36 from the Director of Finance, Treasurer, and approves the creation of a Safe Restart Reserve Fund. Welcome, Kim.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. On April 1st, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing announced the Social Services Relief Fund. Township's allotment for this was $125,000. It's mostly for capital purchases. So like the front counter revision, plexiglass installments, things like that. On August 12th, 2020, the province announced the Safe Restart program, which will provide the township with $295,000 to address operating costs and pressures due to COVID-19. This basically deals with operating costs, so hand sanitizers, masks, sanitizing, extra overtime and things like that. According to the Safe Restart program, if the amount of funding we get in 2020 exceeds what we're going to spend, they are actually requesting that the municipality place these excess funds in a reserve fund for the operational costs associated with 2021. So basically what I'm asking for is council approve the creation of the Safe Restart Reserve in order that whatever funds we do not spend in 2020, we can have as a funding source for 2021 expenditures.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Questions from members of council? Councillor Massey.
Yeah, of the monies received and of the monies to be received, could the council have like a breakdown of where that was that spent and stuff? Like at one point, can we see that? I know it's not in the budget, but can we see that sheet?
Yes, so basically the capital allotment of 125, we have to spend by March 31st for capital. So we have to submit receipts and things like that. But for year end, for the Safe Restart, I have to figure out what operating funds have been spent for hand sanitizers, and I will take it from that reserve. I will take it from that allotment, put it to the expenditures, and then let council know what we've put to reserves for the following year.
Okay, so there'll be a trail of all the expenses.
Yes, I can provide that to council.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Manley.
Just wondering, Kim, the province isn't going to be, do they have access to what we have in the reserve fund? I'm concerned about them looking at the reserve fund and saying, oh, you don't need any more money.
Well, it says what we haven't spent in 2020. They're requesting it to put us to a reserve fund and spend it in 2021. There will be future reporting requirements. I'm sure they're going to need invoices and things like that, but it's not been clearly defined at this point in time.
Okay, all right.
I would think the province has bigger fish to fry than.
I would think so too. So, yeah.
Okay. Any further questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion? There are none opposed. Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Registered notice of vesting. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wensing, seconded by Deputy Mayor Williams. That the Council of the Township of North Glengarry directs the Director of Finance Treasurer to register on title a notice of vesting for property 0111010099300000. Lot 7, Block F, Plan 29, North Glengarry, property identification number 67104-0126 LT. And furthermore, the Council of the Township of North Glengarry will not write off the tax arrears on roll number, the same one as previous. Furthermore, the Council of the Township of North Glengarry will request a merge of property 011101009942000000 with the newly vested property.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, this one is a different one. We put the sale of land by public tender was closed on February 19th, 2020, just before the big closure of COVID hit. And no bids were received for this property. It's landlocked. It abuts a currently owned municipal property, but has no correct identifiable owner. So based on legislation, the municipality may register on title a notice of vesting within 2 years of the tax sale, and then the property will be owned by the municipality and be tax exempt. So if we do that and write off the taxes for one, anything we write off, we have to send a bill to the school portion and the county portion for them to reimburse us. If we sell that property within 7 years, we also have to give the proceeds of sale in the same proportion back to the school board and back to the county. So the parcel of land that's landlocked, if it abuts a municipal property, and it'll be kind of a T-shaped property if we merge the two properties, and it will have road access as well. So it'll be more sellable than it is right now as a landlocked little portion. If we just leave the taxes as they are right now, the taxes owing are probably about $11,000 right now. But if we sell it, whatever proceeds we get, and it'll pay off the taxes and we'll have some profit, but we don't have to pay the school board and county back. So my suggestion is we vest it, then we merge the two properties so we make it into a more sellable property in the future. And then whatever proceeds we get, we get.
Okay, good idea. Councillor Massey, then Deputy Mayor Williams.
Could I just get an idea where this is located? I can't, like,
It's in Greenfield. It's
Okay.
off of County Road 30, between Catherine Street and Father Renaud Street. In your package, there is a map.
Yeah, I see that, but I can't figure it out. Okay, so those are the ones that are,
The yellow and blue on your little map. So the one that's landlocked is the yellow, and the one that we currently own is the blue. So if we own them both, we can make it into a T-shaped property, at least it'd be road accessible.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this certainly makes sense to me. I am curious, though, who we've been charging nobody for these, like somebody for these taxes, but nobody for these taxes.
So this one was interesting because it was the estate of.
Ah.
And it went to a daughter or son, and they'd been getting the estate of tax bills for quite a number of years. And then they went and did research on it. And apparently the deed is in the name of their father from like 1912, but the father wasn't born until 1913. So although it's the same name, we don't know who owns it.
Crazy.
So this was municipal affairs. I talked to municipal affairs, and I said, well, what shall we do with this? Because it might be like Joe Smith, but there's several Joe Smiths, and we don't know which is the estate of Joe Smith. So they suggested we put it for tax sale and see what we can do with it.
Just a quick follow-up, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
The blue property, the one that borders the county road,
Yes.
was that the previous store?
I don't have the history here. I'm sorry.
I think it was, right, Jeff?
Well, that was my question. If this was the property that was the store, but I don't know if it is. I think that's further to the north, I think. If I'm not mistaken.
we sold that store property.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
In all fairness, when I look at the satellite view, it's vacant. There's nothing on it.
Yeah, it was a vacant. The store had been torn down. The township tore the store down, but.
Councillor Madden, did you have a question?
No, I was just going to offer some, as far as location here. If you're headed north, it's on the west side. It's going down the hill. You're getting closer to where the drain runs through,
right,
across 30. And I'm gauging that by recognizing properties on the east side that I've dealt with. So it's yeah, as you go down the hill, it's towards flattening out. It's on the west side.
Wasn't that open lot for sale? Like, do we own the blue square too and the back of it, or?
Yes.
Okay, and then, sorry, Mr. Mayor, is there a road allowance there, or do I see a road allowance?
The blue we own, and it's right on 30.
Yeah, I know, but there seemed to be like a road allowance on Donald Street and Catherine Street. It's not open, but is that a road allowance?
I don't have any idea. I'm sorry. You'd have to talk to the building department. I'm sorry. I don't have that information.
Okay, because it seems like the neighbors on the road allowance there, the corner there.
Okay, well, we'll have to get that back from You'll have to ask Kasia that question. Okay, any further questions or comments?
Good.
Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Moving on to Planning, Building and Bylaw Enforcement Department, I have a motion moved by Councillor Noble, seconded by Councillor Manley, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive staff report number BP 2020-35 for the formal request to proceed with public consultation for the construction of a communication tower in North Glengarry to improve internet quality data transfer speeds for ExploreNet communications. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, like you just said, I was approached by ExploreNet Communications, and they want to put up a communication tower, more precisely a tower to improve the internet quality data transfer speed. The tower will be subject to the same protocols as the one we just did for Rogers and Bell. So they're currently seeking council's approval to proceed with their public consultation. So when that is obtained, they will then notify all the neighbors within 3 times the height of the tower. So in this case, within 135 meters radius of the tower, because the tower is 45 meter high. They will also advertise in the Glengarry News. They will be available for a certain period of time as prescribed in the protocol in the it's called the Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada's default protocol. So they will be available for any comments, complaints. They will then do a summary of all the information they got from the public, and they will come back to council. So before they actually start with the construction of the tower, they will come back to council to actually ask for the approval to start the process of the construction. So what they are seeking now is only the approval to start the process in order to be able to build the tower. If you look at the little site plan I put in my report, you will see the tower is completely at the northeast corner of the township. So more precisely on Binet Road, 22-295 Binet Road. The owners are David White and Nathalie Dubois. You will also notice that it's in a rural area, so it's close to Dalkeith, basically, but more in the country. In their little site plan that they did on the next page, you will see the site is like in the little wooden area there. The proposed site is it's 15 meters by 15 meters. It'll be accessible by a driveway that's already there. So the entrance is already there. They will just put gravel in there. The tower will be approximately 100 feet from the road. And then power is already available. The general information for the tower, as you can see right there. So it's 45 meter high. It's they call it light duty self-support lattice tower. So it has no the guide wires like the one we discussed for Bell and Rogers. So this one is just self-standing like that, like the picture I have put right there. Tower itself has a foundation of 10 feet by 10 feet, so it's not very big. There's no building at the base. There's no fencing of the site. It's just protected by, like you see the panels there. So it's just access ladders, and it's got some steel panels on it anchored there, so to prevent people from climbing up the tower. And yeah, so basically that's pretty much it. They're just looking for council's approval to process, and then they will come back to us with their site selection justification report, the public notification package, and the public consultation summary. Yep.
Great,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Madden.
Just a very quick question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jacob, do they give any indication of what their timeline is in terms of interest in having this up and running?
No, I spoke with Miss Sarah Duncan quickly. They want to proceed as quick as they can, but no precise timeline. No. Okay. But when I told her I was going to put her on the before 2021, she sounded quite happy. So I'm assuming it's pretty soon. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can definitely check into that and come back to you.
Great. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Was that two hands, Brenda?
Oh, yeah. I can almost see it from here. Woo!
Moving on to the Public Works Department, Beaver Management Bylaw. The council receives report PW 2020-29 Beaver Management Bylaw, and the council adopts Bylaw 48-2020, being a bylaw to regulate how beaver management is performed in the township of North Glengarry. And that Bylaw 48-2020 be read a first, second, and third time and acted in open council this 14th day of December 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After reviewing our current bylaw, we noticed several clauses that were outdated and not accurate. We are asking to make a few changes to our current bylaw to be more reflective of our current practices. The amended bylaw would include the elimination of the township's responsibility for trapping on private property and natural watercourses. We would still go into the natural watercourse if there's a chance they would flood the road or if it back up on a municipal drain, we'd still send in our trappers for that. We'd also like to remove the mention of a beaver management committee since we don't have one. The proportional amount that is assessed to landowners for beaver management, we're asking that it would be reviewed annually by council. And we'd also like to change the way we divvy up the work for trappers, how they do the paperwork, how they're invoiced. We're actually hoping to have a sit down with all the trappers that we are on our list that we use and go over some of these points with them early in the next year to get their feedback and come up with a plan to go forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Any questions for Dean? Councillor Manley.
Dean, I noticed in the package that it's mentioned about the trappers would be North Glengarry residents. Is that correct?
Correct. All the trappers we have now are North Glengarry. I know in the past we've used some from outside of our township, so we would just want to keep it local. And
yeah, okay. And we have enough that would be able to.
We got 6 of them that we have on our list right now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dean, I'm assuming things must have been very different on the beaver landscape of things 20 years ago, given the bylaw that we're rescinding and the one you're recommending, because it looked like there was a significant problem back then. What has changed?
We're just being more efficient, and the way that everything is worded, we're just being more accurate with the current practices. The way we handle the trappers and their invoicing, we want to change that also.
Okay. Councillor Massey.
Yeah, Dean, through you, Mr. Mayor. Does that include like municipal drains and stuff like that? We are still going to do that, or we're not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we'll still be doing the municipal drains. If somebody calls in on private property or natural water course, we will give them a list of trappers that we recommend, okay, and they can choose whoever they want. Okay. They'll be on the hook for the cost of it.
Okay, because just to Carmen's point, I think before, like 20 years ago, whatever, earlier times, it was on the township to settle the beaver problem on private properties. I think now we're just letting go of that responsibility. Is that what I'm getting?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we are. Right now, we're going on the private properties and natural water courses to send out our trappers, but we want to eliminate that.
Okay.
Okay. No further questions or comments. I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? There are none opposed. Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Moving on to items from the consent agenda. Motion by Deputy Mayor Williams, seconded by Councillor Massey, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receives the items from the consent agenda for information purposes only. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Okay, so our notice of motion is next regular public meeting of council is Monday, January 11th, 2021 at 7 p.m. We are going into closed session immediately following this. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the members of council and to the members of staff and everyone watching tonight on Facebook. I hope you will have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I think things are going to get better in 2021. I guarantee it. So let's stick together. Let's keep our masks on and let's work together towards bringing down the numbers so that we can get to a yellow, get back to yellow, and which will help our businesses. So please support our local businesses during Christmas. And again, have a great Christmas.
Merry
Thanks.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, everybody.